At 5:42 p.m. on their manicured lawn. They dragged me across the grass like I was trash, and Aunt Brenda laughed, "Drama queen." I'd worn my simplest black dress, brought homemade tiramisu, and carried a risk assessment file thick enough to destroy a family if needed. Their invitation said, "Family only," in bold letters. I was her daughter only now. I knew how to record evidence, file emergency petitions, and make those who laughed loudest kneel first. My name is Avery Hart, and at 7:11 p.m. on a Tuesday, the ivory envelope arrived with my mother's handwriting, elegant cursive that once signed my permission slips and now addressed me like a stranger. Family only, embossed in gold beneath the date. 12 years of marriage to Victor Cole, and they were celebrating with everyone who mattered. The word family sat heavy on the cardstock, each letter a small blade. I called her immediately. Background noise flooded through glasses clinking, Victor's booming laugh, someone asking about the caterer. "Mom, I got the invitation." "Oh, good, honey. Don't bring anything, everything's arranged." Her voice had that distracted quality, like she was checking items off a list while talking. "Just come as you are." As I was, not as her daughter, apparently, but as myself, whatever that meant to them now. The drive from Columbus to Shawbrook took 45 minutes along Route 33 past cornfields turning bronze in late summer. I knew every mile of this road, had driven it countless times when Dad was dying, when the hospice nurses said, "Any day now," for 3 weeks straight. Cedar Ridge had been our sanctuary. Then Dad's lake house where we'd spend weekends fishing for bluegill, where he taught me to read survey maps and understand property lines. "Knowledge is power, Avery," he'd say, spreading the documents across the kitchen table. "Always know what's yours." After he died, the house went to Mom and me as co-owners. Simple, clean, equal. Then Victor appeared with his contractor's charm and promises of tax optimization. The papers changed hands so many times I lost track. "We'll add your name back later," Mom assured me after their wedding. "It's just paperwork." 7 years. That's how long later had lasted. In my trunk, beside the pristine tiramisu in its glass carrier, sat a manila folder I'd been building for months. Not through Stonebridge Mutual's systems that would be unethical, even if Victor's Coal Restoration LLC had pinged our fraud algorithms 6 times. No. Everything I had came from public records county permits, state licensing boards, satellite imagery showing empty lots where he'd claimed storm damage, the blown invoices, the phantom repairs, the peculiar pattern of insurance claims that always fell just under the threshold for major investigation. I'd flagged him in our system once, anonymously. Conflict of interest prevented me from doing more, but knowledge Dad was right about that. Knowledge was power, and I'd been collecting it like evidence for a trial I didn't know was coming. The sunset painted the horizon orange and pink as I turned onto County Road 47. My phone sat in its holder, voice recorder app already open, tested 3 times this morning. Legal in Ohio, single-party consent state. The details mattered. Every timestamp, every word, every sigh and pause could matter. In the rearview mirror, I practiced "I'm your daughter." The words felt foreign, like speaking another language, because daughters get introduced at parties. Daughters have their names on family trees. Daughters don't get family-only invitations to their mother's house like they're strangers who need permission to enter. I pulled into the Shoreline Taps parking lot, Brenda's bar that somehow stayed afloat despite 2 liquor license violations I'd found in public records. The neon sign flickered, casting red shadows across my car. Through the window, I could see the register, the one that processed all those charity event services for the Cole Family Promise Fund, the same fund that listed Brenda as treasurer and Diana as secretary, the one whose 990 forms showed interesting patterns of disbursement. 3 deep breaths. I adjusted the phone in my jacket pocket, angle perfect for audio, camera lens just visible if needed. The tiramisu sat pristine in its carrier mascarpone and ladyfingers layered with the same precision I used for risk assessment models. Everything in its place. Everything documented. The last 5 miles to Cedar Ridge curved through pine forests that opened suddenly to the lake. Water black as ink in the dying light. Their house not mine anymore, apparently sat on the bluff with its perfect lawn rolling down to the shore. Every window blazed with warm light, and I could see the banner through the living room window, Cole Family Stronger Together. I parked beside a Lincoln Navigator I didn't recognize and sat for a moment, engine ticking as it cooled. 7:11 p.m. when the invitation arrived. 8:53 p.m. now, pulling into a driveway that used to be mine, carrying dessert for people who'd already erased me from their family tree. "I'm your daughter," I said one more time to the mirror, and this time it sounded like a threat. The living room hit me like a slap 30 people wearing identical gray t-shirts with a family tree printed across the chest. Names branched from Victor and Diana Cole at the trunk, spreading through cousins, aunts, nephews. I stood in my black dress holding tiramisu, scanning the shirt for my name that wasn't there. "Oh good, you made it." Mom materialized beside me, wine glass in hand, not quite meeting my eyes. "Just put that in the kitchen, sweetie." Sweetie. Not everyone. My daughter's here. Not, "You all remember Avery." Just sweetie, like I was the neighbor who'd dropped by. Victor commanded the room's center, demonstrating some golf swing to his brothers. When he saw me, his expression shifted that contractor's smile that never reached his eyes. "Miss Hart, glad you could join us." Miss Hart. In my father's house. Avery. Perfect timing. Mom's hand on my elbow, steering me toward the group. "Would you mind taking a family photo?" "You're so good with phones." The words landed like ice water. She handed me someone's iPhone, and they all assembled the family while I stood outside the frame, documenting their togetherness. Through the lens, I watched my mother link arms with Brenda, watched Victor's hand rest possessively on the mantle my father built. "Everyone say family," someone shouted. Click, 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 at 5:38 p.m. I escaped to the deck, lungs burning for air that didn't smell like Victor's cologne and Brenda's vodka. The lake stretched dark below, and I remembered Dad teaching me to skip stones right there, where the dock met the shore. "It's all in the wrist. Ave, flat trajectory, consistent spin." Well, the prodigal whatever you are." Brenda swayed in the doorway, martini sloshing. My aunt, though she'd made it clear that title was negotiable, had started early. Her face flushed red as her bar's neon sign. "Hello, Brenda." "That's a funeral dress. Sweetheart, someone die, or are you just that dramatic?" She laughed at her own joke, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "Always were an odd little thing. Even before." She gestured vaguely at the house, the party, everything. "Before what? Before you became unnecessary." The word hung between us like a challenge. Inside, someone had turned up the music Victor's classic rock, drowning out conversation. Through the window, I saw Mom laughing at something, her hand on some cousin's arm, playing the perfect hostess. At 5:42 p.m., everything shifted. Victor appeared with a man I didn't recognize, broad shoulders, security company polo, the kind of purposeful walk that meant business. "I think it's time for Miss Hart to go." "Excuse me." Mom emerged behind them, her face a practiced mask of concern. "Honey, you're obviously upset. Maybe it's better if what? If I leave my father's house." The words cracked something. Victor's jaw tightened. The security guard stepped closer, and then Mom did something I'll never forget. She grabbed my wrist. Not gently. Not like a mother. Like I was a problem to be removed. "You're making a scene," she hissed. "I haven't said a word." "Let's go." Victor nodded to the guard, and suddenly hands were on me, Mom pulling, the guard's palm flat against my back, pushing. My feet tangled, dress catching on the doorframe. The tiramisu carrier slipped, crashing against the deck rail. They dragged me across the lawn. Actually dragged me, my heels leaving grooves in the grass my father had taught me to mow in perfect stripes. My knee hit a sprinkler head, skin tearing through my tights. Blood immediate and warm. That's when Brenda's laugh erupted from the deck. Drama queen. The words carried across the yard, and I heard other laughter join her cousins. Family friends, people who'd known me since childhood, all watching Victor's security escort physically remove me from my own father's house. My phone, thank God, had shifted in my pocket during the struggle. The camera caught it all at an awkward angle, Brenda's face twisted in delight, Mom's cold expression, Victor standing with his arms crossed like a bouncer who'd just expelled a drunk. The audio was crystal clear, the drama queen, followed by Mom's voice. Closer to the phone, "Get her out. This is my family, not hers." They released me at my car. The guard waited while I fumbled for my keys, knee bleeding through torn tights. Tiramisu carrier shattered somewhere behind us. Gray-shirted relatives lined the deck like an audience, their matching family trees a uniform I'd never wear. "Don't come back," Victor said quietly, leaning into my window. "This was a courtesy invitation. You misunderstood your place." I drove away with grass stains on my dress, blood on my knee, and video evidence on my phone. In the rearview mirror, the house glowed with their celebration, the Cole family, stronger together, minus the inconvenient daughter who knew too much about insurance fraud and property deeds. My hands shook the entire drive, but not from hurt, from rage, pure, clarifying rage. They thought they'd humiliated me. They had no idea what they'd actually done. They'd given me evidence. At 6:21 p.m. I sat in the CVS parking lot, pressing paper towels against my knee while the video played on repeat. The angle was terrible. My phone had twisted during the struggle, but the audio was gold. Brenda's drama queen clear as a bell. Mom's "This is my family, not hers," even clearer. I called Eli Navarro before the bleeding stopped. "Avery, it's Saturday night. I need a temporary restraining order and an asset preservation petition. How fast can you move?" Silence. Eli and I had known each other since Ohio State, when he was pre-law and I was learning to calculate risk. He knew I didn't make dramatic calls. "What happened?" "They physically removed me from Cedar Ridge. I have video, audio, the works." "Cedar Ridge, your dad's place." "Technically, Mom and Victor's now, through some creative paperwork, but that's about to change." "Avery, can you do it?" Another pause. "I'll need more than just assault. Even with video, family court sees these disputes differently. Unless you have property fraud, insurance scams, charity fund misappropriation, pick your favorite." "Jesus. Okay, send me everything. But Avery, I need witnesses beyond your phone." I looked across the street at the Porter house, its porch light just flickering on. Frank and Luann Porter, 70-something retirees who'd lived next to Cedar Ridge for 40 years. They'd sent flowers to Dad's funeral, remembered my birthdays until I turned 18. "I'll get them." The Porter's doorbell camera pointed directly at the Cole driveway, a perfect angle for their age. Worried about package thieves and teenagers. Frank answered in his Marines t-shirt, CNN blaring behind him. "Avery Hart." "Good Lord, what happened to your knee?" "Hi, Mr. Porter, I need a favor." They invited me in, Luann fussing with hydrogen peroxide while I explained. Not everything, just that there'd been an incident at the party, and their camera might have caught it. "That woman," Luann muttered, meaning Brenda. "Loud every time she visits. No respect for the neighborhood." Frank pulled up the doorbell app on his tablet, scrolling to 5:42 p.m. The quality was remarkable HD with audio. You could see everything, Mom grabbing my wrist, the security guard pushing, my knee hitting the ground, and Brenda on the deck, her laugh carrying across the yard. "My God," Luann breathed. "Is that Diana dragging you?" "Can you send me that file?" Frank was already sharing it. You need us to write a statement, testify. Maybe. Would you? They exchanged glances. 53 years of marriage in that look. Your father would spin in his grave if we didn't, Frank said. Back in my apartment, I spread everything across my dining table like a war room. The public records I'd been collecting for months, the video from 2 angles, the insurance claim patterns I'd memorized but never formally reported. Cole Restoration LLC had filed 6 claims in 18 months for roof repairs. The addresses were real. I'd checked them all on Google Earth. But 3 were vacant lots. 2 were abandoned buildings. 1 was a parking garage. Each claim just under $10,000, the threshold for detailed inspection. Each invoice inflated with phantom materials, ghost labor, markups that would make a cartel blush. But I couldn't use Stonebridge's internal data. That would cost me my job and credibility. So I went fishing in public waters. Ohio Secretary of State website Cole Restoration's registration, with Diana listed as CFO. County permit database. No roof work permits for any of the 6 addresses. State Licensing Board Victor's contractor license had 2 complaints for incomplete work. Google Earth historical view. Those vacant lots had been empty for 3 years before the supposed storm damage. Then the real prize, the IRS 990 forms for Cole Family Promise, their charitable fund. Brenda as treasurer, signing off on quarterly distributions to community partners. The biggest partner, Shoreline Tap, for event services. $24,000 last year for hosting fundraising events that, according to the bar's own Facebook page, never happened. I cross-referenced the dates. Every event corresponded with a slow week at the bar. Every payment came just before rent was due. The charity was a funnel, and Brenda held both ends. My phone buzzed. Eli. I've reviewed the videos. We can file for a TRO based on assault. But Avery, what's this really about? Cedar Ridge. Dad left it to Mom and me as co-owners. After she married Victor, they convinced me to sign a quitclaim for tax purposes. But I found the original recorded deed Mom had already added me back before I signed away anything. That second deed was never recorded. So legally, I might still be co-owner. The quitclaim could be invalid if the prior deed wasn't properly resolved. That's thin. Not if we combine it with fraud evidence. Show a pattern of deception. Make them defend multiple fronts. You're talking about nuclear war. I touched my scraped knee, remembered Brenda's laugh, Mom's cold face. They fired the first shot. I'm just better armed. By midnight, I had 3 folders. Legal the deeds, the unrecorded transfer, financial insurance fraud, charity misappropriation, and personal assault videos, witness statements from the porters. Each folder alone might be survivable. Together, they were a kill shot. Paper beats blood, I said to the empty room. Dad's voice echoing in my memory. Always get it in writing. Ave, always keep records. I'd kept them all. The county recorder's office opened at 8 a.m. Monday. I was waiting when they unlocked the doors, having called in sick to Stonebridge for the first time in 3 years. The clerk, a woman named Barb with rhinestone glasses, recognized me from my monthly visits researching properties. Back again, honey. What are we hunting today? My own history. The deed trail for Cedar Ridge read like a crime novel. Original deed, 1987. My father sole owner. 2016 transfer after his death. Diana Hart and Avery Hart as joint tenants with rights of survivorship. Then it got interesting. March 2018. A quitclaim deed adding my name back, signed by Diana Cole née Hart, notarized, stamped received but never recorded in the system. The document existed in the submission log but somehow never made it to the official record. April 2018. My quitclaim deed, removing myself from a title I technically wasn't on anymore, properly recorded within 2 days. Barb, how does a received deed just disappear? She adjusted her glasses, studying the screen. Honey, in 30 years, I've seen it twice. Both times. Someone paid for it to get lost. I photographed everything. The receipt log showing the March deed's submission. the missing entry where it should have been recorded, the April deed that removed me from a title that, if the March deed had been processed, I wasn't even on. Can you print certified copies of all of this, including the submission log that shows the discrepancy, especially that? While Barb worked her printer magic, I pulled up the Cole family promise records on my phone. Ohio charitable organizations had to file annual reports, all public record. The deeper I dug, the more interesting it became. Cole Family Promise. Established 2019. Mission supporting local community development. Total distributions last year, $48,000. Primary recipient Shoreline Tap for community event hosting at $2,000 per event. I cross-checked Shoreline's liquor license. 2 violations serving after hours, November 2023, and failure to maintain proper payment records, March 2024. Both violations during months when Cole Family Promise made large event service payments. Then I found the smoking gun in the state business registry. Shoreline Tap's official owner wasn't just Brenda, it was Whitlow and Cole Holdings LLC. Established 1 month after Mom married Victor. Diana was listed as registered agent. My mother was part owner of the bar. Her charity was funneling money to. I texted Eli, need to add self-dealing charges to the list. His response was immediate. Are you trying to send them to prison? I'm trying to get my father's house back. By noon, I had everything structured. Eli met me at his office, a converted Victorian near German Village, all exposed brick and modern furniture. He'd pulled in his partner, Meredith Kang, who specialized in financial crimes. This is elaborate, Meredith said, studying the fund transfers. They used the charity as a washing machine. Donations go in, payments to their own business come out. Is it criminal? It's at minimum IRS violation, potentially wire fraud if any donations crossed state lines. She pulled up a donor list. This name, Robert Henley from Indiana, that's interstate commerce. Eli drafted while Meredith researched. Emergency petition for deed clarification. Temporary restraining order against Diana, Victor, and Brenda. Asset freeze on Cedar Ridge pending resolution. Complaint to the Ohio Attorney General's Charitable Division. IRS Form 113909 for tax-exempt organization complaint. We're also sending preservation letters, Eli added. Any destruction of documents after receipt becomes spoliation of evidence. Send them to their emails, and certified mail, and their attorney if they lawyer up. He paused. Avery, once we file this, there's no going back. This will destroy your relationship with your mother. I thought of her face at 5:42 p.m., cold and dismissive as she dragged me across the lawn. What relationship? We filed everything at 3:15 p.m. The TRO would be heard Wednesday on an emergency basis. The deed petition was docketed for next month. The AG and IRS complaints would process on their own timeline. But I wasn't done. The Ohio Liquor Control Commission had an online complaint form. I filled it out meticulously, attaching the video of Brenda, clearly intoxicated, laughing as I was assaulted at a location where alcohol was being served. I noted the bar's previous violations, the financial irregularities, the charity connections. Then I called Frank Porter. Mr. Porter, I need one more favor. That video from your doorbell, would you file a witness complaint with the sheriff's office? Already did, this morning. Luann insisted. Deputy said it's clear assault. Asked if you wanted to press charges. Tell them yes. By evening, the machine was in motion. 3 agencies notified, civil suits filed, criminal complaint lodged, all based on public records and their own cruel stupidity in doing it on camera. I sat in my apartment, knee still bandaged, looking at a photo from Better Times' dad, Mom, and me at Cedar Ridge, the summer before his diagnosis. Mom's arms around both of us, genuine smile, before Victor's shadow fell across our lives. My phone rang. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Avery, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to stop. This is family business. We can work this out privately. Call me. Family business. Family only. I typed one text back. My lawyer will be in touch. Then, I pulled up the last document, the one that would hurt most: Victor's insurance claims, matched against public records showing empty lots and phantom repairs. I couldn't use Stonebridge's data, but I could suggest where investigators might look. An anonymous tip to the Ohio Department of Insurance from a concerned citizen who'd noticed suspicious patterns. By midnight, I'd fired every shot in my arsenal. Now came the waiting. Tuesday, 4:33 p.m. Eli called while I was reviewing risk assessments at work, pretending my life wasn't exploding in slow motion. They've lawyered up. Harrison Blake from Blake & Associates. I knew the name. Columbus's premier family law firm, the kind that handled messy divorces for Ohio state trustees and congressmen's wives. $500 an hour, minimum. And Blake called with an offer: $75,000 and a comprehensive NDA. You sign away all claims to Cedar Ridge, drop all complaints, and never contact the family again. No, Avery. Counter with this: they return Cedar Ridge to me free and clear, remove Brenda as treasurer of the charity, and issue a public apology for Saturday's assault. Eli whistled low. That's not a counter. That's a declaration of war. Then tell Harrison Blake to check his email. Meredith just sent the preservation letters. Any destroyed documents after receipt become criminal evidence tampering. Within an hour, my phone exploded. 7 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Victor, 12 texts ranging from "please be reasonable" to "you're destroying this family." I responded to none of them. Instead, I forwarded Eli everything I'd held back screenshots of text messages where Mom promised to fix the deed situation, emails where Victor discussed optimizing the charity for family benefit, Brenda's Facebook posts bragging about working the system with strategic payments from the fund. At 6:47 p.m., Mom called from a different number. I answered. "You're being vindictive," she said without preamble. "I'm being thorough. $75,000 is more than fair. Cedar Ridge is worth $400,000, Dad's house, that you promised would stay partly mine. You don't understand the tax implications. I understand fraud, insurance fraud, charity fraud, deed fraud. Should I continue?" Silence stretched like a taut wire. "I'm your mother. Were you my mother at 5:42 on Saturday when you dragged me across the lawn, when you said, 'This is my family, not hers'?" I was upset. You were making a scene. I was existing, in my father's house. That apparently was too much. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "What do you want?" I told Eli, Cedar Ridge, Brenda out of the charity, public apology. "We can't, Victor won't. Then we'll let 3 government agencies and a judge decide." She hung up. Wednesday morning brought the emergency TRO hearing. I wore my best courtroom suit, charcoal gray, the one I used for depositions when Stonebridge needed expert testimony. Mom and Victor sat across the aisle with Harrison Blake, whose silver hair and Hermes tie screamed old money. Brenda was notably absent. Judge Patricia Thornton reviewed the videos in chambers first. When she returned, her face was granite. "Mrs. Cole, Mr. Cole, approach." The dressing down was surgical. Physical assault captured on 2 cameras. Clear evidence of intent to harm. The judge granted the temporary restraining order immediately. They couldn't come within 500 feet of me or contact me except through counsel. "There's also the matter of the property dispute," Eli added smoothly. "We're requesting an emergency asset freeze on the Cedar Ridge property pending resolution of the deed investigation." Blake objected, but Judge Thornton had seen enough. "Granted, the property is frozen until the deed matter is resolved. No sales, no transfers, no modifications to the structure." Victor's face went purple. He whispered furiously to Blake, who requested a recess. In the hallway, Mom approached despite the fresh restraining order. Eli stepped between us. "Through counsel, Mrs. Cole." "1 minute," she pleaded. "Please." I nodded to Eli, who stayed close but let her speak. "You're destroying everything your father built. Dad built Cedar Ridge. You and Victor built a criminal enterprise around it. Brenda's bar will go under without the charity support. Then Brenda should have run an honest business. She's family. So was I. Mom's eyes filled with tears, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her in years. If you continue this, there's no coming back. Victor won't forgive. The family won't forgive. What family? The one on the t-shirts I wasn't included on. The one that laughed while I bled on the grass. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. Through counsel, I repeated, and walked away. Thursday brought new developments. The Ohio Attorney General's office had fast-tracked the charity investigation after finding significant irregularities in the initial review. The Liquor Control Commission scheduled an emergency hearing for the following week regarding Shoreline Tap's license. Brenda called Eli directly, drunk at 2 in the afternoon. That little bitch is ruining everything. Do you know what this is doing to Diana, to the family? Eli recorded it all, her slurred threats and admissions creating more evidence with every word. My client is willing to discuss resolution. Resolution, I'll give her resolution. We never wanted her anyway. Diana only kept her around because of guilt about that pathetic father. Click. Eli hung up and immediately filed a supplemental complaint with the court, including the recorded call as evidence of continued harassment despite the TRO. By Friday, cracks appeared in their united front. Mom's attorney reached out separately from Victor's. Blake had withdrawn. Conflict of interest. She was now represented by a junior partner from a smaller firm. Mrs. Cole is willing to discuss separate terms, the new attorney said. She's prepared to testify that the March 2018 deed was intentionally not recorded at Mr. Cole's insistence. Victor's empire was crumbling, and Mom was cutting her losses. But I wasn't done. The IRS had acknowledged receipt of the complaint. The Department of Insurance opened a formal investigation into Cole restoration. And Meredith had found one more beautiful detail. Victor had personally signed every fraudulent invoice, making him individually liable beyond the corporate shield. Your parents are starting to turn on each other, Eli reported Friday evening. This is getting ugly. I thought of Dad, teaching me to skip stones on Cedar Lake. It's all in the wrist. Flat trajectory, consistent spin. Good, I said. Let them understand how it feels to be thrown away. Friday night, 9:17 p.m. The Liquor Control Commission moved faster than anyone expected. Shoreline Tap was under emergency inspection when 3 agents walked through the door during the dinner rush. Brenda, already 2 martinis deep, made the fatal mistake of trying to bribe them with free drinks. The inspectors found $12,000 in cash payments without proper documentation, employment records showing underage servers, and a point-of-sale system that had been accidentally wiped every Sunday for 6 months, always right after the charity's events. They sealed the POS system on the spot. Eli called me at 9:43 p.m. Brenda just imploded. She told the inspectors the cash was from Diana's fund arrangements and that everyone does it this way. She admitted it to state inspectors. While drunk, in front of 3 witnesses and their body cameras, I sat in my apartment, watching the news on mute, feeling the dominoes falling exactly as calculated. Each move triggered the next, inexorable as gravity. Saturday morning brought an unexpected twist. An anonymous letter arrived at Stonebridge Mutual's ethics department. Someone had reported my conflict of interest regarding Cole Restoration's claims. The letter detailed my family connection and suggested I'd been protecting them. I'd anticipated this. Victor's last desperate shot. I walked into HR at 8:01, Monday, with my own folder. I need to self-report a situation before it becomes a problem. I told Grace Chen, our chief compliance officer. I laid out everything. My flags on Cole Restoration dating back 2 years, my careful avoidance of their files, the documentation showing I'd never accessed their claims directly, only seen the patterns in public aggregates. You flagged them. Grace reviewed my submissions, 2 years ago, and 6 months ago, and 3 months ago. Each time, I recused myself from the review process due to family connection. She studied the anonymous letter, then my documentation. This letter claims you protected them. The opposite. I flagged them repeatedly while staying within ethical boundaries. Every piece of evidence I've collected came from public records, not our systems. Grace smiled slightly. You documented everything. Risk assessment is my job. Take the week off, paid, we'll investigate. But Avery, she tapped my folder. This is the cleanest self-protection file I've ever seen. You'll be fine. Tuesday brought the family fracture I'd been waiting for. Mom's lawyer sent a package copies of emails between Diana and Brenda from Sunday night. Brenda, your daughter destroyed my business. Fix this. Diana, I can't control her anymore. Brenda, you brought this snake into the family. Victor's right, you're weak. Diana, I've covered for your theft for 3 years. Brenda, it's not theft when you sign the checks. Diana, I signed because you threatened to tell Victor about Miami. Miami. Some secret Mom and Brenda shared, now splitting them apart. Mom's lawyer attached a note. Mrs. Cole is prepared to testify regarding the charity fraud in exchange for immunity from prosecution. She was flipping. My mother was throwing her sister under the bus to save herself. Wednesday. Victor made his move. A new offer through his third attorney this week, $200,000 for Cedar Ridge and silence. Still trying to buy his way out. No, I told Eli. Original terms. Avery, $200,000 is not about money. Never was. That afternoon, Mom broke the restraining order. She showed up at my apartment, looking like she'd aged 5 years in 5 days. I called Eli immediately, keeping the door chained while he stayed on speaker. 2 minutes, she begged. Please. You're violating the TRO. I'm recording this. I don't care. She was crying now, mascara streaking. Brenda's been stealing for years. The charity was her idea. Victor doesn't know about Miami, about what happened there before I met him. What about Cedar Ridge? He made me do it. The deed. Said it would protect assets from his creditors, but really, he wanted to develop it. Turn it into rental units. Your father would. She choked on the words. Say it, on recording. Your father would be disgusted with what I've become. And Saturday dragging me out. Victor said you'd ruin us if you stayed, that you knew too much. He was right, wasn't he? You've been collecting evidence for years. I've been protecting myself. For years. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. Maybe for the first time since Dad died. You're just like him, patient, methodical, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He taught me well. I'll give you Cedar Ridge. Sign it over clean, no conditions. Just please. Stop the criminal complaints. Brenda could go to prison. Victor's business will be destroyed. Brenda should go to prison. Victor's business should be destroyed. What about me? I'm your mother. I studied her face. This stranger who shared my blood, but not my values. Who chose a contractor's bed over her daughter's birthright. Who laughed with the family while I bled on the grass. You were my mother. Past tense. Now you're just someone who violated a restraining order. Eli interrupted. Mrs. Cole, you need to leave before I call the police. She turned to go, then stopped. You'll end up alone, like your father did. He wasn't alone. He had me, which is more than you'll have when Victor realizes you're testifying against him. Thursday morning. Stonebridge cleared me of any wrongdoing. The investigation showed I'd actually cost the company money by refusing to pursue coal restoration more aggressively despite my suspicions. You could have saved us $80,000 in payouts if you'd pushed harder, Grace told me. Your ethics cost us, but they also protected us from liability. Well played. That evening, Victor snapped. Eli forwarded a voicemail that came through the law office line at 6:21 p.m. Your client is a vindictive bitch who's destroying a family over petty jealousy. You tell her this isn't over. I built that house's value. I made it worth something. She wants war. She'll get war. Perfect. Another piece of evidence. Another violation. Another nail in the coffin he'd built himself. By Friday, the state had filed criminal charges against Brenda for charity fraud. The IRS had opened a formal audit of both the fund and coal restoration. The Department of Insurance had frozen Victor's contractor license pending investigation. Mom had been granted immunity in exchange for testimony. The family that stood united in their gray t-shirts was now eating each other alive, and I hadn't even gotten to the grand finale yet. Sunday, 5 p.m. The text came from Mom's phone. Family meeting to resolve everything. Please come, just to talk. Eli was against it. It's a trap, or a violation of the TRO. The TRO says they can't contact me. This is me choosing to attend. Besides, I held up my phone, showing the recording app. I want them all in one room. I'm coming with you. Bring the process server and park where the doorbell camera can see us. We arrived at 5:28 p.m. The house looked different, no banner, no celebration, just 3 cars in the driveway. Victor's truck, Mom's sedan, Brenda's BMW with a new dent in the bumper. Eli waited in his car with James, the process server, engine running. I wore a simple black blazer with a small Bluetooth speaker in the pocket, my phone recording in the other. Everything broadcasting to the cloud in real time. Victor opened the door, his face a mask of forced calm. Miss Hart. The living room had been rearranged chairs in a circle like an intervention. Mom sat rigid on the couch. Brenda slouched in Dad's old recliner, wine glass already half empty despite the early hour. The family tree t-shirts were gone, replaced by careful neutrality. Thank you for coming, Mom started, reading from index cards. We want to find a resolution that works for everyone. We want you to drop this vendetta, Victor cut in. It's destroying the family. What family? I remained standing, equidistant from them all. The one that dragged me across the lawn 2 weeks ago. Brenda laughed, bitter and sharp. Still dramatic. Some things never change. I pulled out the Bluetooth speaker, placed it on the coffee table. They watched, confused, as I hit play. 5:42 p.m. from 2 Saturdays ago filled the room. The sound of dragging feet on grass. My gasp of pain. Brenda's crystal clear, drama queen, followed by laughter. Mom's voice, get her out. This is my family, not hers. The recording played for 90 seconds. Nobody moved. That's defamation, Victor said finally. You can't. It's evidence. Already filed with the court. The porter's camera caught the same thing. Different angle. We're prepared to offer, Mom started. Cedar Ridge, free and clear. Brenda removed from the charity. Public apology. I'm not apologizing for anything, Brenda snarled. You've cost me my bar, my reputation. You cost yourself those things when you stole from a charity. I didn't steal. You invoiced for 24 events that never happened. I have the receipts, or rather, the lack of them. Victor stood, fists clenched. You want the house fine. Take it. But the criminal charges stop. That's not how criminal charges work. The state files them, not me. You reported. I provided evidence of crimes. What happens next is justice, not revenge. The doorbell rang. Everyone froze. That'll be for you. Brenda, I said. Victor answered the door. James stood there with an envelope. Brenda Whitlow. She's not? Victor started. Brenda pushed past him, wine sloshing. What now? You've been served. Civil suit for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and assault. Have a nice evening. James handed her the papers and left. Brenda tore them open, reading frantically. $200,000. Are you insane? That's separate from the criminal charges, and from the IRS audit, and from the liquor license revocation. You vindictive little... Choose your next words carefully. I'm recording. Mom stood between us. Avery, please. She's my sister. And I was your daughter. Past tense hung in the air like smoke. At 5:39 p.m., I pulled out the second document. This is a property transfer agreement. Sign Cedar Ridge over to me, tonight, and I'll consider discussing the civil suit. Not dropping it, discussing it. That's extortion, Victor spat. It's negotiation. You taught me that, didn't you? When you convinced me to sign away my inheritance for tax purposes. I improved that property. I increased its value. You committed insurance fraud using it as collateral, which reminds me, I looked at my phone. 5:42 p.m., 3 minutes until the exact time you assaulted me 2 weeks ago. What's your point? Brenda demanded. My point is that in 3 minutes, something else happens. We waited in tense silence. At exactly 5:42 p.m., Victor's phone rang, his lawyer. What do you mean? Frozen. Victor's face went white. All of them. That's impossible. He hung up, staring at me. You didn't? Asset forfeiture based on suspected insurance fraud. Every account associated with coal restoration, frozen pending investigation. The state moves fast when they have solid evidence. That's our business, our life. Should have thought of that before filing false claims. Mom sank onto the couch. When did you become this person? The moment you chose him over me, the moment you let them drag me out of my father's house, the moment you all decided I wasn't family. I pulled up the live stream on my phone, Eli's camera showing the front of the house, recording everything. By the way, this is all being streamed, for safety, in case anyone wants to try dragging me again. Brenda threw her wine glass against the wall. It shattered, leaving a red stain like blood. You've destroyed everything. No, you destroyed everything. I just documented it. Victor stepped toward me. I held up my phone. 500 feet. Remember, the restraining order. You're already in violation by being this close. This is my house. Not for long. So, who's signing? Or should we let the courts decide everything? The room erupted. Brenda screaming about lawsuits, Victor threatening lawyers who'd bury me, Mom crying about family and forgiveness. The chaos was perfect, all captured on audio, all evidence of their continued harassment despite legal warnings. At 5:44 p.m., I walked to the door. You have 24 hours to sign the transfer. After that, Eli files for immediate possession based on the fraudulent deed filing. Your choice. As I reached the door, Mom called out, You're just like him, your father, stubborn and unforgiving. I turned back one last time. Good. He'd be proud. Outside, the air was clean and sharp. Eli started the car as I approached. James already gone. In the doorbell camera's view, you could see Victor in the doorway, face twisted with rage. Brenda beside him still screaming. Mom collapsed against the frame. The family united in their destruction, exactly as they'd been united in their cruelty. How do you feel? Eli asked as we drove away. I watched the house disappear in the mirror, thought of Dad teaching me patience at the lake, teaching me that knowledge was power, that papers beat blood every time, like I'm finally home. 6:12 p.m., Monday evening. The locksmith's drill bit into the deadbolt at Cedar Ridge while a sheriff's deputy stood by the road, emergency lights painting blue streaks across the lake. Eli had the court order in hand, immediate possession based on fraudulent deed filing, signed by Judge Thornton an hour ago when Victor failed to appear with the transfer documents. They'd tried to fight. Victor's lawyer filed an emergency motion that morning, but the evidence was overwhelming. The unrecorded deed from March 2018, Mom's immunity testimony confirming Victor ordered it destroyed. The pattern of fraud that made every document they'd touched suspect. The lock gave way with a metallic snap. I stepped into my father's house for the first time in 2 years. The air smelled wrong, Victor's cologne instead of Dad's pipe tobacco, fresh paint covering memories. But underneath, the bones remained. Cedar beams Dad had restored himself. The fieldstone fireplace where we'd roasted marshmallows. The window seat where I'd read while he tied fishing flies. On the mantel, almost hidden behind Victor's golf trophies, I found it the height marks on the doorframe, pencil lines climbing from age 3 to 17, each one dated in Dad's careful hand. Victor had painted around them, too lazy or careless to sand them away completely. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, a photo of shoreline tap, a seized notice plastered across the door. The state had moved on the liquor license violations and tax fraud simultaneously. Brenda's bar was gone. Another text, this one from Mom. I hope you're satisfied. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Eli helped me document everything: photos of each room, video of the condition, notes on what had been changed. Victor had started renovations in the basement, framing for what looked like separate rental units. The permits were nowhere to be found. Another violation to add to his growing list. The truck! Eli pointed out the window. A Shoreline tap delivery truck was being loaded onto a flatbed, part of the asset seizure. Through the trees, I could see lights from the coal house they were watching their empire crumble from across the lake. I walked down to the dock where Dad had taught me to fish. The boards creaked under my weight, familiar as a lullaby. In the fading light, I could see the rocks where we'd skipped stones, the cove where the bluegill gathered in summer, the old rope swing still hanging from the oak. Ms. Hart. The locksmith stood on the porch. All done. 3 new locks, all keyed the same. Nobody's getting in without your permission. I signed his invoice and watched him leave. The deputy followed. Duty done. Eli packed up his files, promising to handle any remaining paperwork. By 6:45 p.m., I was alone. I placed the new sign by the driveway, small but clear. No trespassing owner Avery Hart. Not out of spite, but necessity. Legal notice that this was mine, had always been mine, would always be mine. Through the window, I saw headlights turn into the coal driveway. Victor's truck, moving slow. They'd driven past to see the sign, to witness their loss. I didn't hide. Let them see me standing in the house they'd tried to steal, holding the keys they'd never have. My phone rang. Meredith Kang. Thought you'd want to know Brenda was arrested an hour ago. Federal charges for the charity fraud. The IRS doesn't play. And Victor. State charges coming tomorrow. Insurance fraud. Multiple counts. Diana's testimony sealed it. Diana. Not Mom. The woman who'd chosen sides and lost everything. I walked through each room, remembering. The kitchen where Dad made Sunday pancakes. The study where he taught me to read survey maps. The master bedroom where he died. Looking out at the lake, my hand in his. Always know what's yours. Ave, he'd whispered near the end. And never let anyone take it from you. I'd kept that promise. At 7 p.m., I stood on the deck where they'd laughed at my humiliation, where Brenda had screamed drama queen while I bled, where my mother had chosen her new family over her daughter. Now Brenda faced prison. Victor's business was destroyed. Mom had immunity, but no family her sister arrested. Her husband soon to follow. Her daughter gone forever. The gray t-shirts with their family tree would never be worn again. The Cole Family Promise Fund had been seized. The Stronger Together banner was a lie exposed. I opened my laptop and pulled up the risk assessment model I'd built. Every variable accounted for. Every outcome predicted. The beauty of mathematics: clean, logical, inevitable. They'd thought emotions would make me weak, that family bonds would stay my hand. They'd never understood that betrayal, properly documented, was the strongest evidence of all. The lake was glass smooth in the twilight. Somewhere across the water, 3 people who'd called themselves family were learning what it meant to lose everything. Not through emotion or impulse, but through careful, methodical, complete destruction of every lie they'd built. I set down the laptop and picked up a stone, flat and smooth. The muscle memory was perfect arm back, wrist locked, that sideways release Dad had taught me. The stone skipped 7 times before sinking, ripples spreading in perfect circles. All in the wrist, I said to the empty air. Flat trajectory. Consistent spin. Tomorrow there would be paperwork, insurance claims to dispute, renovation permits to file, a house to restore to what it had been. But tonight, I stood in my father's house, my house, and watched the sun set over Cedar Lake. No family reunion banner, no matching t-shirts, No blood relatives who'd proven blood meant nothing. Just me, the deed in my name, and the echo of Dad's voice. Papers beat blood every time. Av. Every single time. The lock clicked behind me as I went inside. Solid. Final. Mine. Justice served at exactly the right temperature. Ice cold, with a side of legal documents. The house was quiet except for the grandfather clock Dad had restored, ticking steady as a heartbeat. I sat in his chair, opened his old surveyor's notebook, and found his note on the last page. For Avery, everything I have, everything I am, don't let them take it from you. I hadn't, and they'd paid the price for trying. Thank you so much for listening to this story of revenge and justice. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. What would you have done in Avery's situation? Your perspectives and experiences make this community special. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't just living well, it's living well with properly documented evidence and a good lawyer.